Could your gut be affecting your mental health? When most of us think about anxiety or depression, we think brain first. Neurotransmitters, psychology, stress, trauma. But another piece of the puzzle has been hiding in plain sight. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about what the gut-brain axis is, how inflammation in the microbiome can shape mood, why stress can trap both symptoms in a loop, and a simple way to use this perspective in daily life. I'm Rachel. I have 23 years of experience as a psychiatrist, but I also work at the intersection of mental health and gut health, helping people with Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and chronic digestive issues build predictable digestion, stable energy, and confidence in their body again. Over the years, I've often seen gut improvements arrive alongside shifts in mood and resilience, and now a growing body of research to match it. People living with inflammatory bowel disease such as Crohn's and ulcerative colitis experience higher rates of anxiety and depression than the general population. Yes, chronic illness is hard, but the relationship also appears bidirectional. Gut inflammation can influence mood, and stress, anxiety, and low mood can also amplify gut symptoms and disease activity. The gut talks to the brain and the brain talks back. So the vagus nerve is how the gut and brain talk to each other. It's direct wiring between the gut and the brain. But there's also immune signaling, so we have cytokines that turn systemic inflammation up or down. We have hormones, so stress hormones shaping gut motility, permeability, but also our sleep. When it comes to the microbiome, trillions of organisms producing metabolites that interact with our immune and nervous systems. And then we have neurotransmitters, so gut microbes actually help regulate pathways linked to serotonin, dopamine, GABA, and melatonin. Around 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. That doesn't mean it simply travels into the brain. The biology is much more complex than that. The point is interconnection, not a one-hop fix. So dysbiosis in the gut, barrier integrity, and inflammation all matter. When the microbial ecosystem loses diversity or tilts unfavorably, and when I'm saying that, I'm talking about gut dysbiosis, then gut barrier integrity can suffer. A leakier barrier lets bacterial components like LPS reach circulation, which can then trigger immune activation and systemic inflammation, so inflammation all throughout the body. Many people with depression show higher inflammatory markers such as interleukin-6 and TNF-alpha, and for some, mood symptoms may be a downstream effect of an inflammatory sequence. And that could look like dysbiosis leading to increased permeability, then immune activation, then inflammation or oxidative stress, resulting in neuroinflammation, inflammation in the brain, and then altered neurotransmission, meaning mood changes. When we get to inside the brain, inflammation can reduce neuroplasticity and lower brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which I like to think of as fertilizer for the brain. It's a compound tied to learning, resilience, and mood, and may in some contexts affect the blood-brain barrier's integrity. And in fact, the blood-brain barrier is very similar in function and form as the gut barrier. Chronic stress activates the HPA axis and elevates cortisol, one of our stress hormones, and over time that can alter the microbiome, increase gut permeability, and fuel inflammation, which then heightens stress sensitivity. So the loop looks a bit like this. Stress leads to gut changes, which leads to inflammation, which leads to brain changes, and then more stress reactivity, and round it goes. So short-chain fatty acids we need to talk about, because when beneficial microbes ferment dietary fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. These help to maintain the gut barrier, support the blood-brain barrier, modulate inflammation, and may improve gut-brain signaling. Having lower levels of short-chain fatty acid-producing bacteria in the gut have been observed in some people with depression, which may be one reason why diverse, fiber-rich eating patterns correlate with better mental health outcomes. Now, probiotics is a topic that many people turn to, and there's some interesting research in this area. So some lactobacillus and bifidobacterium strains show promise for stress and mood support in limited studies. We're still learning who benefits which strains and when. So it's encouraging, but not a one-size-fits-all solution. And to be honest, I don't usually recommend probiotics to people. I would much rather that people use light to influence their gut microbiome. So in 60 seconds, I'd like to share a simple way to use this perspective without overhauling anything. Just a quick reflection to run this week. A gentle practical reflection for this week is that at the day's end, ask 2 questions and jot a 1-line note. Do a rhythm check. Did today's cues support the gut-brain loop? Did you have consistent meals, allowing 3 to 4 hours between each meal? Did you take a brief 7 or 10-minute post-meal walk? Did you plan for an earlier wind down and get adequate sleep? For a stress tolerance check, did stress feel a notch easier to handle on days when those cues were in place? Track just 2 signals for 7 days. Did you wake rested, yes or no? Did you have an afternoon crash, yes or no? You're not changing perfection, you're noticing whether small rhythm cues shift how the day feels. So what does all of this mean and what doesn't it mean? Mental health is multifactorial. Psychology, relationships, sleep, trauma, genetics, they all matter. But so do epigenetics, lifestyle choices, our environment, and the ability of those to turn genes on and off. And so biology matters too. The takeaway isn't that the gut causes depression. The takeaway is more that for some people, gut biology is a meaningful lever inside a connected system. For decades, we separated mental health from physical health. The science and many people's lived experience suggest they're tightly linked. When the gut improves, we often see steadier energy, lower background inflammation, and sometimes shifts in mood and resilience. Maybe that's not surprising. The gut and the brain have been in conversation all this time. And remember, fear is a low vibrational state, a low energy state. And when it comes to healing, energy is everything.